This just shows us how much most of the older generation would rather stay with the familiar, no matter how uncomfortable, painful, or nonsensical, because their fear has paralyzed them from taking a different path of working for a new company. For my parents and their generation, the idea of moving to another company for better salary and to upgrade their skills was something that they just truly could not fathom. We will never know just how much and what we are capable of if we don't at least try. I think in today's generation, especially in this information age we live in, there are so many opportunities for us to upgrade our skills and even to learn new skills in our lifetime. It's not unheard of for older generations to start their online businesses, for instance, at 50, 60, or 70 years old. Our parents came to the UK believing it was the land of opportunity. And it was, but only for those who knew where to look. Most Filipinos didn't. Language barriers, exhausting jobs, fear of doing the wrong thing. They stayed safe and stayed small. And today, many retirees look back, wishing someone had told them how to build wealth, how to save, how to invest, and how to thrive. We can't change their past, but we can change our future. For every Filipino in the UK watching this, it's not too late. Despite the current climate in the UK, I still believe that we're living in a country still full of opportunities. The answer always lies within us, to allow and enable ourselves to access the abundance of opportunities our parents never did. Hello, I'm Lani, a lawyer, entrepreneur, and mum of two living in the UK. I'm a second-generation Filipina, and this is my channel for second-generation Filipinos and adult children of immigrants. The first generation helped us survive. Now we have the opportunity to learn to thrive and to gift that legacy to our children and their children. This channel is for all of us to learn, share, and discuss important things such as money, finances, pensions, business, investments, personal development, and anything that matters to you and our community. This video is the third part of a series of videos discussing the topic of the top 3 regrets of Filipino retirees. In the first video, we looked at the top 3 regrets of the older Filipino generations who have now retired or are close to retirement, and as the younger generations, what we can learn from these regrets so that we can be open to opportunities and have a thriving life for ourselves and for the future generations. To recap, according to cited global articles, studies, and reports, the top 3 regrets of Filipino retirees are: 1. Not preparing financially or having insufficient savings or pension coverage. 2. Failing to plan for healthcare and underestimating future medical costs. And 3. Not diversifying income sources. In the first video, we raised our awareness regarding pensions in the UK and how much we can expect to receive from our state pension and private pension based on the current statistics. We also learned, if we compare the amount of pension that we could receive in full, that this is still significantly less than the amount of what an average annual UK gross salary currently is. If you've not watched that yet, I would urge you to please watch that, as the numbers are indeed very sobering and should definitely make us think about what we should do now to have the kind of retirement that we want. In the second video, we explored in more detail the second top regret of retired Filipinos, which was failing to plan for healthcare and underestimating future medical costs. We learned how knowing, or at least having an idea of where you'd like to retire, is the first step, so that you can then financially prepare and allocate the necessary funds and savings for healthcare, especially if you're planning to retire outside the UK and where good or decent healthcare is not available for free. Again, if you've not watched that yet, I would urge you to please watch that also. In today's video, we will be zooming in on the third top regret of Filipino retirees, which is not diversifying income sources. In other words, relying only on one source of income, or sometimes staying in the same role for the same company throughout their working lives. This is one of those topics that I really feel strongly about because I've seen it firsthand with my parents and their friends, as well as hearing the stories of other older Filipinos of how remaining stuck or staying in the same situation, jobs, and places can literally kill your dreams and stunt your growth mentally, emotionally, financially, and spiritually. For my parents and their generation, which is a mixture of baby boomers and the silent generation, loyalty was of utmost importance. Their mindset was one of working for the same company, in the same role, until you reached retirement age. This was the norm and was seen as a professional virtue. And to be fair on them, a valid reason for their loyalty was because historically, long-term employment was rewarded with stable, well-defined benefits, such as a solid salary, good healthcare, and crucially, a guaranteed pension plan upon retirement. Leaving a company meant potentially forfeiting these valuable accrued benefits. However, I think the issue here is that this way of thinking also kept them stuck and limited. Instead of thinking of moving to another employer or company as a way of expanding and improving upon their skills, knowledge, and qualifications, and thereby earning better salary, they somehow had it in their minds that staying in the same company would be far beneficial for them in the long run. This was usually not true, especially since there was no guarantee that they would even receive company benefits when they retired. And even if these benefits were available, they did not know how much they would actually receive and whether the amount would be sufficient for their retirement. I know of many older Filipinos who stayed in the same roles for at least 20 to 25 years until they retired. They never asked for a pay rise. The concept of moving from one company to another to secure a better paying job and perhaps to upgrade their skills was so alien to them. For them, this type of behavior is risky. They viewed this as something that's negative because for them, this is not expressing or showing loyalty to their employers. For example, I know of someone who stayed working for the same NHS hospital for over 27 years. Yes, 27 years, even though 13 years before they retired, they and their family moved to another area that was at least 2 hours away from the hospital where they worked. Funnily enough, in the area that they moved to, there was a hospital that was about a 10-minute walk away and another hospital that was about 30 minutes drive away. If that was me, there would have been no doubt that I would have applied to those two hospitals since these were closer. It therefore didn't make sense why this person chose to remain in the same hospital and waste 4 hours every day of their working lives, and sometimes more, when there were tube and bus strikes just to go to work. And then to do this for the next 13 years until they retired is just, for me, absolute madness. This just shows us how much most of the older generation would rather stay with the familiar, no matter how uncomfortable, painful, or nonsensical, because their fear has paralyzed them from taking a different path of working for a new company. For my parents and their generation, the idea of moving to another company for better salary and to upgrade their skills was something that they just truly could not fathom. Now that I'm older, I see that a lot of this loyalty was actually a form of fear. Fear of not finding another job, fear of being rejected from applying for another role, fear of taking on new responsibilities, fear of meeting new colleagues and to their friends, the fear of leaving them behind by taking on higher or more senior roles. The sad thing is that they were definitely very capable of taking on better paying and more senior roles to progress them in their careers, but they did not allow themselves to try and express this because the fear of growth and expansion was holding them back. As I said in the introduction, they kept themselves small. I urge you to please don't repeat this. Would you believe me if I said that you have infinite potential, that you are already more than capable? Nobody, not even the most intelligent and capable scientists around, can tell you just what you and I are capable of. I'll give you a few examples from my own experience. So when I was 16 years old and we were having to choose our future careers, I wanted to be a childminder. Nothing wrong with that profession at all, as I've always loved kids. But on the other hand, I also loved learning about law, in particular criminal law. I was one of those weird kids who were fascinated by what's now known as the true crime genre. I actually had books on real life crimes and would read and reread them every chance I got. I also used to love, and still do to this day, true crime TV programs too. I guess you could say I was already a true crime fanatic even back then. So the idea of being a lawyer was a daunting thought. For me, although I knew I was smart, I wasn't book smart. I didn't have the highest grades in the class. I was what you'd call a B or a C type student. Sometimes an A student, but this was not consistent. So for me, studying law and actually graduating in law seemed like an ambitious and ridiculous dream. But I guess my dream was bigger than me. And when I told my dad, he encouraged me and said to go for it. And so I did. Anyway, I did graduate and completed law school the following year. So I proved to myself that I was more than capable of studying and finishing a law degree. Another example was when I was in my early 20s and was just starting my legal career. I used to think that I could never be a director of a company or even be able to manage or lead a team of lawyers. My belief then was just I did not want the extra responsibility. But if I was really honest with myself, the real fear was that I didn't believe that I was capable of being a leader. I always thought I was always going to be a follower, a team member, rather than a team leader. Little did I know that nearly 20 years later, I would be creating and running my own company and be my own boss. And now that I'm an entrepreneur, I can honestly say that I've proven to myself time and time again that I'm definitely more than capable of being a leader and running my own business. So the point here is that we will never know just how much and what we are capable of if we don't at least try. I think in today's generation, especially in this information age we live in, there are so many opportunities for us to upgrade our skills and even to learn new skills in our lifetime. It's not unheard of for older generations to start their online businesses, for instance, at 50, 60, or 70 years old. And I get that we are all busy and exhausted, but I think it's imperative and we owe it to our future selves and our kids to continue to improve ourselves, to continue to grow as a person, as a parent, and as part of a community. Now that we know the top 3 regrets of Filipino retirees, I believe it is our duty to empower ourselves and future generations to improve upon the first generation's experiences and to ensure as much as possible that we won't have the same regrets that they did. So let's make it our mission to grow mentally, emotionally, financially, and spiritually. Let's take financial growth, especially since we've been talking about pensions and medical costs in our previous videos. If our goal is to improve our financial situation, the first thing we must do is to tackle our debts. As mentioned in my second video, reducing or eliminating debt should be our number one priority towards our financial goals. Debt can be crippling and debilitating. It not only affects us financially, but also mentally and sometimes physically. Releasing ourselves from the clutches of debt enables us to gain control over our finances, to finally be able to save and invest our money, so making our money work for us instead of us working for money. One of the ways to reduce or eliminate debt is by being honest and listing down all of our monthly expenses, as well as all of the money we're earning every month. By becoming aware of our expenses and also just how much we actually earn, we see just how much we spend and on what things, as well as what we can realistically afford to buy with our current budget. If you have already done this and you've tried to reduce your monthly expenses, but perhaps you still do not have enough to make ends meet, or you just have enough left over, then the next thing to do is to consider how to increase your current salary. This may mean gaining further qualifications in your field and or applying for a more senior position in your company, or perhaps applying to another company for a better paying role. Or it may mean applying for a different job altogether, where you can transfer and use your current skills. For example, if you're already a nurse working for an NHS hospital, you may be thinking about applying for a more senior role, but you may not have the qualifications for this role. Well, it could be that your NHS trust may offer to pay for your course for you to go to university and study part-time. Again, it takes courage to ask and also to do your own research. But if it's something that you'd like to try, then I would tell you to just go for it. For my would-be entrepreneur friends, my advice is this. If you are thinking of starting a new business or have already started this, then I would urge you to keep your current job until your business is earning money consistently, say for at least 6 months to a year, and the money you're receiving is the same or exceeds or is projected to match or exceed your current monthly salary. In this current climate, it is prudent to continue to have a stable income while you work on your business part-time. I would not advise to start and run your business without your money being replenished every month. This is the same for those who are starting side hustles, such as selling digital products or services online or offline. And please, for the love of God, try not to join a multi-level marketing or MLM company. Despite what these companies tell you, they are a pyramid scheme. And statistically, the overwhelming majority of MLM participants, 99.6% of participants, lose money. I think it's a waste of time, money, and energy. If you wanted to know more about personal development, entrepreneurship, sales, marketing, etc., start your own business. Be your own boss. Being an entrepreneur will teach you these things and more. You need to have ownership, and being a part of an MLM company does not mean you have your own business. The owners own the business. So, if the company goes bankrupt, then your business goes down with it, which means all of the hard work you've put in to recruiting your downline all goes down with a sinking ship. The concept of having passive income, which these MLM companies sell, does not work out for most people that join after the company already has its top earners making significant income, i.e., it only really works for those who join the company from the beginning of its launch, the ones who are at the top of the pyramid. A lot of these leaders also jump from one MLM company to another. Income will only become passive once you have the systems and the teams in place to help you run your own real business and continue to earn money while you sleep, whenever and wherever you are. And this takes a lot of time, dedication, grit, drive, passion, transformation, growth, and money. Entrepreneurship is tough. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Yes, it looks glamorous, especially being your own boss, But the reality is that it is a lonely road, full of uncertainty, anxiety, worry, sacrifice, grit, courage, honesty, pain, growth, and many lessons in between. If you add in lack of money into the mix, then you're asking for trouble, pure and simple. Despite what you may hear, it is a rarity for entrepreneurs to become financially successful within 1 to 2 years of starting their business, and even rarer for them to continue to have a thriving business 5 years after starting their business. For many, it usually takes between 3 to 4 years for their business to start generating decent money. But, and there is always a but, there is no harm at all in having a goal of starting a business and becoming financially successful within 1 to 2 years. So I'm not saying it's impossible, because it isn't, but I also know that this takes a lot of time, energy, focus, effort, and willingness to achieve this goal. And if you have all of this, then I say go for it with all your heart and soul. So the main takeaway here is that as much as you are able and willing, I would encourage you to keep upgrading, keep learning, and keep growing. Your current situation, whatever it may be, is not the be all and end all. In other words, you always have options and opportunities available to you at your disposal whenever you're ready to look for these. So if you've been dreaming about going for a more senior role, or perhaps changing careers altogether, then go for it. You only live once, or YOLO, as they say. Of course, be sensible and try to stay in your current job as much as possible until you've done your research into the new position or industry that you'd like to take, and you've armed yourself with the relevant knowledge and skills to take the next step. There is a saying in Tagalog that my dad always used to say, which is, palaging nasa huli ang pagsisisi, which in English means, regret is always at the end. I always took this to mean to always be brave and to never have regrets. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button, subscribe, and comment below. Have you made the leap of taking on a more senior role in your company? Or perhaps you've decided to work in another industry? Do you feel you made the right choice or not? Or have you started your own business? How does it feel being your own boss? Do you like it, or do you miss being an employee? Stay tuned for the next video, where we'll explore the real meaning of being financially free and working out how much you actually need to be financially free and perhaps be able to retire early. See you soon.